I am Darnell Haywood. I'm Director of College Counseling. I have been at Columbus Academy for 14 years. Before that, I was Director of College Counseling at Columbus School for Girls, and before that, I worked in college admissions. So I don't want to give you the years because then you might be able to guess my age. But I would like to tell you I had a son who started in kindergarten here. You can see the little kindergartners in the Kindergarten Buddy program who graduated last year with Jennifer's son. And I have a son who is a junior this year at Columbus Academy. I'm going to pass it on to my team so they can make their introductions as well.
Hi everybody, I'm Jen Fitzpatrick, one of the 3 college counselors here. This is my 10th year at Columbus Academy. I think I got a bowl or something from my office today. Before Columbus Academy, I worked at another independent school in Pittsburgh in the college counseling office, and before that in college admissions. This is year number 26 for me, but miraculously, I'm actually 33 years old. So. Okay, John Wagshall. You can call him Commander Wags, I'll tell you why.
Good morning, everybody. John Wagshall. It's great to be here with you. As far as how long I've been doing this from my former Navy career, the answer is supposed to be all me boom in life. But I was a Navy judge advocate for 22 years before going into education in 2012. This is something I've always really wanted to do, having gone to a school much like this myself and having had some amazing influences who to this day are some of the most important influences in my life, and back then, even then, saying someday I want to be like those folks. So this is my chance to do that. In the Navy years, one of my pinnacle experiences was working at a place called the Defense Institute of International Legal Studies, where I've got to work with leaders from about 45 different countries, working with lots of different backgrounds and points of views. That was great prep for being an educator in pretty much any setting. And anyways, having a blast working with your children and helping them find their way forward in life.
So I want to start with what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about the nuts and bolts of the college counseling program here, with a special emphasis on parents and parents' role in what we do, and how you might be able to help your children as you work through this process. We're going to give you a broad sketch of sort of what we know and what it's like here, with the understanding that when it's the appropriate time, we'll get a lot more college counseling in your high school years. You've had a chance to look at this picture for a while, these pictures up here for a while, and what I wanted to tell you is that we thought very carefully about choosing these photos. What these photos are from the first day of school, in the convocation ceremony, when kindergartners meet their senior buddies. And what we think is so important about this day is it tells you so much about our community, the K12 Connection, and it shows the care that our older students have for our younger students. And what I love about these photos is they tell the story a little bit, I think, of actually what parents' roles are in the college counseling process. When you look at these during different stages of the year, what you will see for seniors is sometimes your students will be running ahead, so excited to jump into their future, can't wait to get there, and you're trailing behind and they want you smiling with joy. Sometimes they're going to need you to hold their hand. They might be a little concerned about their future, where they're going to go, and need you to be there for them. And sometimes they just need you to sit beside them as they look out and take in the changes that are going on in their lives. And what I like to look at these photos about is in terms of college counseling, is that although we are dealing with upper school students who are 17, 18, maybe a 19-year-old thrown in there, is actually not that long ago they were in kindergarten. So it feels like this big milestone journey, you're sending them off, the future is all set, but actually they're children too. And we keep that in the center of our work and what we do at every stage of our process. Next slide. So just to tell you a little bit about college counseling here. College counseling is very important at Columbus Academy. The school supports it. They have we have robust programming. We have a wonderful staff. It is a big part of the school, and actually in our mission statement, college prep. Every year, 100% of the students, or typically 100%, will go on to four-year colleges and universities. That's very different from your typical public school, where the matriculation to college ranges will differ. And here what we have, and what you have in the school, is a 36-to-1 college counselor to student ratio in each class. And just to draw out the difference that is that you all have, in most schools in the country, it's a 500 students to counselor ratio. And in most schools, that counselor is a school counselor dealing with mental health and all of the factors of the social and emotional well-being of children, and college counseling is just lumped on top of that as an extra. Here, what we have is dedicated college counselors. We have social and emotional counseling as well, but that's not in our office. We are specialists in the area of college counseling. What that means is that we spend time both in school with students, meeting with them regularly, meeting with families, working in partnership with various departments in our school. But we also have one foot outside of the school in terms of getting to know people at colleges, learning about trends related to standardized testing, gap years, new programs and scholarships that are out there. We spend a lot of our time outside of the school learning about what opportunities and finding ways to connect students, your students, to those opportunities. So we see ourselves as bringing a little bit of what they will jump into next to you all. We are also very intentional about the way we arrange our programming in the upper school. We ground this in age-appropriate ways for students and families, making sure that they get the information they will need, knowing that every child is on the track to go to college, and making sure that we don't add, that we do this with a little fun and fluff, okay? So sort of what we want to do is keep joy in this process for kids. We are looking at ourselves as a way to say, okay, we're spirited, we're fun, and you'll see from this team, we hope you laugh a little bit today. So I've opened with some serious notes, but here comes Jen Fitzpatrick, who brings a lot of pipe to the party, and here she is.
That's a little pressure for tap dance and fancy shoes today. Okay, we get a lot of questions from younger parents about the typical question is, hey, where are the kids going this year? And every year that's different. That's what's kind of fun about our job. By the way, I think we have the best jobs at the whole school. I often argue with the pre-K and kindergarten teachers about this. Oh, we have the best job. Well, you get them in, but we get them out. So everything in between, by the time they get to us, they've done all this really fun stuff, and then we get to tell colleges about it. So this is a little bit about the typical senior class at Columbus Academy. Last year's class actually went to 72 different colleges, but on average, the class of 100, 105, 108 students goes to between 50 and 60 different colleges every year. It's kind of remarkable. It's not a ton of clumping, but they really go all across the country. In fact, last year, 75% of our kids went out of the state of Ohio. So when you see, as an upper school parent, you'll notice we have college visitors that come every year. And that's typically about 120 colleges who come to our school to recruit our students. And if you're a college admissions representative and you're only coming to Columbus for one day and you can visit 4 schools, you're going to target schools where you know those kids are likely to leave the state of Ohio and come to your university. You're going to target schools where the kids are academically really great kids, and so that's why they come to our school. They actually go across the country and every once in a while internationally. We have students in Canada, we have a student at St. Andrews. After Ohio, it's not like they're just venturing into Indiana or New York or Pennsylvania. Typically, the number 2 state on our list is Massachusetts or California. It's not like they're going 3 hours away, they're really going. They're getting on a plane and they're getting out of Dodge. Next. Yep. Okay, so where do they go? We're going to give you a copy of our school profile. Vanna White, can you pull this up for me, please? Vanna? Okay, so at the end comes Savannah. She will give you 2 handouts. One of them is going to be the school profile. This is a document that our school, thank you, Mr. Morgan, produces every year that we send to college admissions offices. It's required to go with an admissions application and with the student's transcript. And on the back of this document is a listing of all of the colleges where kids have applied, been admitted, and where they're attending. What we're really proud of is not simply the list of schools of where they've been admitted and where they're going, but how successful they are when we get there. You notice at Academy, we're not called a college placement office, we're called a college counseling office. We like to help kids find fits and matches where they're going to go and thrive and be successful. The best phone call I got last year was when our admissions representative from Notre Dame called to let us know that the valedictorian was a Columbus County graduate. It's awesome. Darnell's been here during one of the years where the valedictorian at Williams College was a Columbus County graduate. It's amazing, right? So they don't just go and eke through. They go and they are successful. The best day of the entire year is the last day before Thanksgiving break when kids are back and they're visiting and they come to tell us what's going on in their school. Okay, this is a slide we kind of internally debated whether or not to show you. This is something we showed the Board of Trustees. For lack of a better word, a scorecard, just some of the numbers. Coaches will often say, oh, my season's not measured in wins and losses. Well, we think that there are other stories in our year as well, like where students started and where they finished. But we know that this is these are some metrics that interest people, so we're going to flash this up and show it to you. I think the more important thing is how do they get there? How do we get to these results? Okay, so partnerships within our school is a big deal. One of the partnerships that we're featuring with a photo is the partnership we have with athletics. So I had parents say the other day, oh, you're so lucky. That girl's going to basketball. She was done. We didn't even have to help her. Oh my goodness. We started helping her as a sophomore. You don't just happen to go play basketball at Bates College. There's a lot of behind the scenes efforts. We love the partnership with athletics. These are some of the other ones. I'm not going to read them off to you. But our work is done within the context of the entire school. So different than what might happen at, say, an independent counselor's office where it's very transactional, we're thinking about your child within the context of their school day, within the context of other things that are going on, right? We don't ever want to have big college counseling meetings the day before the prom. Nobody would come. Not one child would show up. They'll get their hair done. So we kind of know what's going on in the kids' lives and try to plan it around that at appropriate times. Okay, did I miss anything?
Nope, I think you got
I'm
it.
going to pass it over to Mr. Waxel, who's going to talk to you a little bit about the process, how the sauce is made.
All right, I'm going to talk about the sauce. So we got this timeline, this thumbnail timeline here. Actually, there is a much more detailed version of this, a 4-year timeline, which we have copies of and we'll provide you all afterwards if you'd like to take a copy of that. So here we have this quick overview. But what you're seeing here is that we are very darn deliberate about things in terms of how we go forward with the process. It is purposeful. It is very much a plan. And it really gets up and running in earnest in November of the junior year. And we'll talk a little bit more in a moment about why we do it that way, but that's on purpose. So yes, we start off with 10th graders in the spring. But it's really kind of a slow rolling start into the process, recognizing that we're really going to hit our stride with our juniors. So in the spring of the sophomore year, why do we touch base then? Because there are some things that are time sensitive where we need to start talking about them. In particular, we want to start talking to students about their plan for standardized testing, because not everybody should have the same plan about when they should start standardized test taking and when they should start the review. That's very much individualized, student by student, based on the courses that they're taking and what they're going to be ready for and when. We also might be talking to them, we also will be talking to them about course selection for the junior year, because sometimes they have some ideas about the directions they want to go, and college counseling can offer some very useful insights on that. So we're purposeful about that, as I was saying. Okay, if we can go to the next one. So we're kind of going to get into some, we like to call it the inside baseball stuff here. But we're looking at the national landscape of college admissions, and we are attuned to this. This is something that we pay attention to a lot. We really want to be aware of what's going on around us because it influences what we do and how we do it. And look, colleges, like anybody else, any place else, for them, money is important. Money is a factor. And so they have a business model. And these days, the truth is the marketplace is challenging, right? And one of those variables that's challenging for them from a business model standpoint is the fact that, hey, a hefty dose of the revenue comes from international students. Very often these are full-pay people coming from overseas, and there's uncertainty about how that's going to ebb and flow. So that's a factor. And we see this playing out in other areas as well. So for example, we know that early decision has become an increasingly interesting and important area for colleges. What's the big deal about ED? Oftentimes, when students apply ED to college, one of the incentives to apply ED, aside from the fact that you get to, if you're accepted, you finish the process sooner, is at a school with a very low admit rate, you might find that the percentage of admit is higher, early decision. And why do schools do this? Well, it fits into this strategy that we're talking about, this business model that we're talking about, which is that they're concerned about yield. Yield is of the people we accept, who's going to come. And with early decision, since it's binding, they know that if they accept you, typically they're going to yield you. And so that's something that schools have taken on, and they're even expanding this further with an increasing number of schools offering a second round of ED, slightly later in the process, which they're calling ED2. And ED2 is not entirely new, but it is growing. So again, just part of that national landscape that we're really purposeful about being attuned to. And we'll go to the next one. So yeah, trends you should know. And like I was saying, it's with the national landscape, it's our job to be on top of this stuff, to know about this stuff. And the good news is that we do that. Right? We pay very, very close attention to it. And so what are some of the trends? Well, we see students are applying to more and more colleges. Why? Well, for one reason is because it's easy. With online applications and the use of the Common App, it's very easy to increase the number of schools you want to apply to. We take an approach where we try to ensure that this stays measured. We don't want people to beat their head against the wall too much. There's a certain number of schools that make sense in terms of having a thorough list of good fits with varying ranges of selectivity. But it is easy to apply to a lot of places with the online Common App. We see media talk of beginning the college process earlier. And we sort of push back on this because we really feel like the approach that we're taking, which is measured, is making a ton of sense. And one of the data points here is that it's kind of time-tested and it's worked out, and we really believe in this. We think that when it comes to the energy and the focus that our students are able to put into the college process, about 14 months seems to be about right. Beyond that, you start getting into saturation and they wane. And so we want to make sure that we approach this in a way that's constructive, it's healthy, it's energized, it's going to be a really good experience. And if you start too soon, then that's just going to fizzle out eventually, and it's not for the best. So that's something that we've pretty carefully considered. Another trend that we're seeing is the increased interest and emphasis in STEM areas. So oftentimes at schools we'll see that for those who are applying to STEM programs, you might look at a school and say overall there's a certain level of competition, but that competition might be even slightly more if we're talking about a STEM field. The last area of kind of trending that I want to highlight for y'all is just the growth in applications. And you probably hear about this quite a bit from friends and families who have kids going through the college process and in the media, but it's pretty remarkable right now. And some of this might be attributable to the fact that so many schools are going test optional. That's certainly a factor, but it's been an explosive growth in applications last year. So you see some examples on this slide that are pretty incredible. Usually it would be a big deal to say All right, schools applications are up 5%, 7%, something like that. But now we're seeing stuff that's just off the charts. MIT has 66% increase in applications. 33,000 apps for 1,100 freshman slots. Those are big numbers. UCLA had an increase of over 100,000 applications last year. And Ohio State had over 63,000 applications, and the list could go on and on. This year, Northeastern University up in the Boston area topped 90,000 applications. So these are big numbers, and we're sharing this with y'all just to give you a little bit of a sense for how things are trending. And the fact is we're watching it, we're working with it, and making sure that we are abreast of all these things in order to take good care of the kids. And with that, back to Darnell.
Thanks, John. We gave you the hard slides. All the bad news to share out there about those numbers growing. But what we want to do with this group is we are pulling back the curtain so that you understand some of that, and you understand the moving target of what happens at colleges and universities, and to assure you that we stay on top of that and we give the latest information to our families. So that it doesn't feel like when you get there that the rug is pulled out from underneath you, that you know a little bit about what we're seeing happening, and we give you that latest information. And part of the reason that we want to do that is because we are also aware of what this is doing in the life of children. And actually there's research out there that right now, for students who are in privileged, affluent, rarefied environments, but this is one of the points that we're seeing that is actually the hardest time when you get to high school related to that. And a lot of this is based in the college process because so much has changed, because the colleges are dealing with so many more applications, are setting their institutional goals. So what felt like something that was secure is a little bit of an unstable market. And part of what we want to let you know as parents, what we think is really helpful to know, is to know some of this information, and also to know that you will not know what is going to happen to your child until you get to this point. So there's nothing you can do now to speed up time or to turn to the last chapter of the book. The book is being written right now, and it will unfold as it unfolds. And what you want to do and what we want you to do is to focus on the growth and development of your child while not making it about where they're going to college or what college it's going to be. So we're going to ask you to think about a couple of things. So instead of saying like, oh, at some point, where do you want to go to college, or what are you thinking about? You want to say, ask questions like, what are you learning right now? What do you love doing? Observe your child when they are happy and notice those things about them so that you can keep a catalog of sort of where they end up going and flourishing once they get out of Columbus Academy. And not thinking of that as a particular place that will allow them to flourish, but a set of internal knowledge of self, of interest in learning, of understanding, what the world is about, and how there are many places that can make that happen. One thing I've told students and families before is, sure, I'd love to live in a Victorian house in San Francisco. Instead, I live downtown in Columbus in a landlocked area, but it's a brick house and it's beautiful and I love it. So, it's not exactly sort of maybe what I had dreamed of, but then I've learned to fall in love with the reality that I have, and that's what we want to instill in students. I also think that, for parents to know, and this is an interesting sort of long-range view. Michael Thompson is someone that we really love reading about, and what he talks about is that at the college point, going off to sending your child off to school at 18 is really relatively new in the history of societies. Kids used to stay with families, stay with them, but now we say, okay, you're going off at 18. And that's That's really scary. That's an endpoint for us as parents. That's a new beginning for them. And the reason that there's so much stress and anxiety around the college process is because we're wondering, do they have the skills that they take? Have I taught them what they need to know? Have I prepared them for the journey ahead? So there's pressure on them and pressure on us. And as parents, being aware of that is really important. Next slide. So you will see this is not only in our national publications, which I showed you, but this was on CBS News late this summer, early fall, about the sort of mental health piece of students and in this. And I'll tell you, this is what we focus on a lot and what we want to be aware of, because we want our students to go off to college ready to learn, eager for the journey ahead, not exhausted by pressures of high school or what we put on them. We want to have that joy in their life, and so you may be aware as you go through our process of how much we're joking around with the kids and trying to make light of it and saying, today we're going outside to go for a walk, or we're going to go meet the new employees of the school, because we are trying to help them understand about entering a new environment and what it'll take to be successful when they get there. And guess what? That's not a particular institution. That's not one place that will make your life. There are many, many possibilities of where they can go and where they can be successful. Okay, now that I've gone through some of the other slides, I'm going to ask Jen to go over a little bit about some of the questions.
So we love talking with our parents because we see you as partners in the process. And folks often say, okay, I hear what you're saying, but how can I help? So this is, I try to blow this up as much as I could from a recent NAIS, National Association of Independent Schools magazine article. The biggest way you can help is to please trust the process. Trust our process of college counseling at Columbus Academy. We think it's tried and true. We think it works pretty well. We think we're pretty good at our jobs. Jeremy may disagree, but I think he's a great basketball announcer. I think he thinks we're pretty good college counselors. The other thing you can do as parents, I'm going to say it really slowly, and I'm going to say it twice. Please stop asking kids about college. Please stop asking kids about college. I think that we all believe that to be a polite question, right? A parent will say, oh, you're a junior, you start college counseling, where are you looking at colleges? Just to show you what this means, right? So you think that's an innocent question and that's the polite thing to do. If Darnell said to me, oh, I just started working out, I have a new workout regimen, my first question to her is not, well, how much weight did you lose? What are you down to? Or if you got a new job, I wouldn't turn to you and say, well, what's your new salary? Those are impolite questions in society, and we all know that, but yet we'll turn and ask a high school child the most intimate details of where they are. They feel the pressure. We talk about this all the time. We try to limit that talk and to have it at appropriate times. In our college counseling class, with parents, we suggest once a week once you get into the process, but we know that this is perceived as like nice, normal conversation, but we don't realize that you're kind of adding some stress on. So what can you ask? There are a few things highlighted here. I'll tell you what kids love to talk about. If they're sophomores, get your driver's license. How's that going, right? How was your first homecoming dance? I love that dress you bought on Lulu. I learned about all these new websites as a freshman mom. Gosh, I love those strappy sandals. Where did you get those? I mean, ask them about anything else than college. Think about this. Think about what's your favorite class? Who's your favorite teacher? What do you think you might want to study? Those are all fair game, but when you ask where are you going to college, really it's what's your GPA and what am I thinking your test scores are based on what you're responding to me, right? Okay, next slide. The other way you can help is to think about your words and to think about your pronouns. So when you say, we are going to visit college campuses, you're not. Jen knows, she's the chauffeur. You are driving your child. We teach our kids in the college counseling class how they should walk up to the admissions receptionist and say, I'm here for my college admissions visit, because the family is not there. They're not interviewing the family, they're interviewing the child. We also want you to think in general conversation, you presuming to know why another child got in or did not get into our college. Nobody knows. The college admissions office knows. We hear this a lot. People ask us this question a ton. do you think he got in because, or did she not get in because? Nobody knows. There's no silver bullet, there's no magic behind any one admissions decision, but this does not help. When other adults in the conversation say this in regular conversation, it's just not true. Nobody knows. Okay, we have a couple last things. We're going to let John talk about this slide. We have one more after this, and we'll take your question.
Thanks, Jen. At the heart of the matter, we just love doing what we do. When we think about our background, not only as college counselors, but with background in college admissions, as teachers, as coaches, we really live at this intersection of expertise in the college process specifically, but also really well and truly being educators. And we love that. We love this opportunity to support the children, not only with the nuts and bolts of how do you go through this process, how do you complete an application, but well and truly taking care of them at every step of the way. Columbus Academy is, as you all know, very much a values-driven community. And we're proud to be part of that, and to be part of that process, and to support the students as they go through this, helping them grow into the kind of people we all aspire for them to be as they go forward. And our hope, our wish for all these students, and this is what we work toward, and we feel like we're pretty accomplished with this, is that as they go through this process, it's going to be a great experience for them. One in which they feel supported and reinforced and well-guided, and it will be part of that overall growth experience that their education here is supposed to be.
We wanted to let you know that anybody can follow us. These are our 2 social media accounts. That's our Instagram and our Twitter account. Instagram's new. The kids wanted it. They demanded it. We are here for the people. I have a senior who helped us design, if you see the landing page. I have 0 experience with those graphics, but our intern, Ella Morris, she took my phone and said, I can do that in 30 seconds. It was pretty fun to watch. Okay, Darnell and John haven't seen this yet, but I linked something here because when we talk about wanting the kids to have energy when they start the process in earnest, right? So that's really fall of the junior year. So if you start talking about college in 8th grade, by the time they get to us, they're like, oh my God, college counselor. I've been doing this since I was in middle school. This is the energy we want when they start the process. This is what we need for 14 months. Get ready. I just saw this the other day and I had to show it to you. Watch this little girl. Watch her face.